holistic program as well as the medical program. And a quick introduction to Panama missions, because we have so many new people. About, 22 years ago, in 1999, Larry Brady came to Long Beach and gave a presentation on his work in Panama. And he showed some videos and was talking about a medical group he was trying to take to Panama, and he was asking for volunteers to come and help, not only in the evangelistic part, but in the medical. Well, something clicked, and I thought, I want to do that. I want to do that. I've waited my whole life to do that, and my children were grown. So I took off to Panama, and that was in the year 2000. Well, I took a friend from Long Beach, and many of you knew Paula Rischel. She has passed away since. But Paula was a teacher at one of the schools here, and she and I went to meet a group coming in from Colorado in Panama. We were over on the Atlantic side in a place called Cologne, and Kelly and Brian know a lot about that place. And so anyway, we arrived there. We were in this isolated area, and we found out that the Colorado team had been had a storm, snowstorm in Colorado, and they had to cancel their trip for 3 days. My first time there, I did not speak Spanish. Paula was a teacher. She had no idea what we were doing there. So anyway, we woke up the next morning sleeping on the floor in this little old clinic, and every window when we woke up was surrounded with people looking in at us. So those were our patients for the day. So anyway, make a long story short, that was the beginning of Panama missions for me. The next year, Belinda and Jeff Tipton came. The years after that was Kelly and Brian, and also many others that are here today, and you're going to see their photos on the screen today. But we became involved, the church did, and like I said, in the year 2000, but we became really involved probably about, 10 years ago, Mark, when we started taking in more medical teams. So right here, this is a map of Panama, and usually what we do is we fly in, our teams fly into Panama City, which is right here, and then we take a bus or a car, depending on how many people we have, down to the Darien province. It's a 4.5-hour trip by vehicle, and then we get on a boat, and it's another 3.5 hours. And we leave from this port right here, La Palma, arriving into the Comarcas. So we go out into the Pacific Ocean, and then we go into rivers to get to our place where we're going to work. These are some of the medical teams from the past, and you may see your photo there. And they have grown over the years. There's Brenda, right there. Some of the other, I have to tell you a quick story. We were going across Pacific, and we hit a wave, and it threw me up and almost out of the boat, and I fractured my lower spine. So they were kind of holding me up. I know people say, Diane, you're always hugging people in those photos. Well, basically, I'm trying to get someone to help me stand up. So I don't remember much about that trip. But the others took over, and it turned out fine. This is our team in 2020. And you can see how it's grown over the years. We were there February through the first week of March in 2020. We had a large team, and we worked in several villages. Now, going back several years, our teams have usually gone into different areas in Panama, and as I began to get more and more involved, I became their medical director, and I wanted to focus on one area. It's great that we go and help people, but I just felt like if we could focus on one area and provide health care in that area, then more people would benefit. The area we work in is with the indigenous tribes called the Imbara. Wonan. Now, there are 7 indigenous tribes in Panama, and this is only one that we have been working with other than the Kuna. And many of you have been or real familiar with these Indian tribes. So we began focusing on that. I began working with the Minister of Health, and you'll see photos of that shortly, to see if we could become a little bit more organized and bring more health care into these areas. And that's what we are doing now. But when we left March the 8th in 2020, 24 hours later, the Panama borders were shut down with COVID. And then a week later, our country went into quarantine. So if we had been 24 hours late catching our flight, you wouldn't have a preacher right now. We'd all still be in quarantine.
Now you're exciting them.
We would still be probably in Panama trying to get back. But luckily things worked out, and we did come back. Since COVID, there's been issues in Panama, of course, and the people that we work with need health care. I mean, the bottom line is they have no access to it. There are clinics in the area that the government built, but there's nothing in there. There's no medicine, there's no supplies, there's no equipment. And this is the area that we became real familiar with and that we wanted to eventually establish a clinic and help. This is the team in 2021. So you can see we went from many people down to 6. In April, our medications, all of our supplies had already been shipped to Panama for our team coming the end of February and March. It was canceled, of course, by the Minister of Health. All that medicine supplies were there, and I thought, by next year it's going to be expired, and it's just, it takes so much money, so much time, so much work to organize this that I said, you know, it just can't sit there. So I had sent out letters to our teams, and of course people cannot on the spur of the moment take off and go down to Panama, and this was during the COVID time. So I called Francisco, and I'm going to talk about him later, Dr. Francisco on the end, and he has joined our medical team. He's originally from Nicaragua. He's now a minister in Honduras, so he's both. He's a doctor and a minister. And I called him, and he said, I'll meet you in Panama. Let's do it. So he flew in. I met him. The Centerfront International Law Enforcement Group met us, and they loaded up our medicines, took them to this area, and we spent a week there and went to 6 different villages, and we probably saw over 695 people between the 2 of us and then our help. This is the mayor right here of the area that we work in, of Camarca 2. This is Captain Umberto. He's head of the Centerfront in that area, which is a law enforcement group. This young man here is Rogelio, and he is a representative of the Imbaran Nation. Everyone knows probably Raul. Raul is one of the young men that we're real familiar with. He's our translator. And he, by the way, I'll talk about him later. That's what's special about him. So there we were. That was the 6 of us, and we got started. Over the years, the Peace Corps people have kind of been what we call our voices. They help us translate. And these young people are amazing. They're remarkable. They live, of course, in the villages with the people. They speak their language, and they're so helpful to us. And I see Celia smiling. You know, all of us have worked with the Peace Corps people, and they're great. They're absolutely great. When COVID came into Panama, they were immediately sent out back to the United States. And the last information I received was they're not going to put any more Peace Corps workers in the Darien province. So that's not good for us. Just to give you a little bit of background and how much organization it takes to accomplish some of these areas that we go to. you know, you just can't say, I'm going to take a mission trip and I'm going to go take care of people and I'll just find my way there and I'll set up a clinic. You just can't do that. You've got to, in this day and age, you can't. You've got to have cooperation through the government, and you also have to have recommendations from the government and also approval from the government to go into these areas. Panama Missions has a wonderful reputation. They've been down there for 35 years. And our group has just been going for 21. So they have a great reputation. They know who we are. They know they can trust us. So we have an advantage when it comes to working in Panama. 2 years ago, when I started as a medical director, we made arrangements to meet with the Minister of Health. And so some of these photos here is that meeting, and we made presentations. You can see it on, I don't think this is working, is it? No, yeah.
It won't work on.
It won't work on the screen. And we sent a group down to meet with the Minister of Health and other ministers. We met with the Minister of Education, Minister of Health, and Minister of Security. And so we were making presentations about the areas that we want to work in and the things that we had committed to. And one of the things was to build a clinic in this area to help with health care. And you know, it's like any other political meeting. You know, everybody's all excited and yeah, I think this is great. And then we start talking about the areas and what they need. And the Minister of Health looked at me when I was giving a talk, and they said, wait just a minute. Now, where is this? And I said, well, it's in Panama. It's in the Darien, and that's one of the last frontiers. So it's kind of like the lost tribe, the lost people, a lost country. And they do provide, as I said before, clinics, and they build these clinics, but it's like planting a flower or a tree. If you don't water it, it's not going to grow. So no one ever came. They never had anyone in the clinics to provide health care. They never put anything in the clinics. There's a hospital down in Medellin, which is close to the Colombian border. It was a multi-million-dollar hospital that was built for the area. It's crumbling. It's huge. No one ever came. They never put anyone down there. So this is a problem. This is a situation that you deal with. And there's Mark out there. Mark gave a presentation too, which was excellent. It was very good. And the Minister of Health is right here. And this is our presentation. And we did make a 5-year commitment to offer health care to this region. And they did say that they would help us and also approve our medications, approve us coming into the country. So it's something that we all have to work together. You know, they know that we're there, we're trying to help, but they're really not interested. So, but anyway, I think our team is starting to do a good job. This was the last meeting in March. We went down. And of course, with COVID, it was very difficult to really do anything other than just have meetings. The group over here, these are Embarra officials, the 2 mayors of the comarcas, and also the representatives. And this right here is Gloria Ponce, and she's our representative for Panama Missions in Panama. She lived in the States, and so she's quite helpful. Panama. You fly into the city, it's beautiful, very modern city. It's like any city in the United States. There's approximately 4.5 million people in the country, and close to 500,000 now in the city. And like any other huge city, the poor come there to find work, and those are some of the areas that you see outside of the city limits. But it's a beautiful place downtown. We do not work there. And as soon as you leave this and head south, then we're going into the last frontier. And it's much different than it is in the city. And if you'll talk to Panamanians on the street and tell them I'm going to the Darien, they have no clue. Most Panamanians have never been down in this area.
They wanted to know why we were going down there.
Yeah, why, that's right. Why would you go
Going
down
down
there? We're very fortunate to have the Centerfront. Is that next? What did I do? The Centerfront is a very elite law enforcement group that protects the borders of Panama. And they became involved with us many years ago, helping us. And we never go into this area unless we have really a battalion with us. It's kind of wonderful. It's just like everybody has their own bodyguard. But they're wonderful professional people that help us. And I don't think we could really do this without them because they provide our transportation. They pick us up at the airport, take us on that 4.5-hour trip down to Medellin where we hit the border, the port, so we can get on the boats. These guys, they're big law enforcement guys. They unload everything and we just kind of stand around, so it's kind of nice. You'll see some of our people right there at the port. Again, here's photos of the law enforcement people. I can't say enough good things about them. They're wonderful. Panama
What's in all those bags?
Supplies.
Just the medical supplies?
Medical supplies.
You put them in the bags in case because of the water?
Because of the water, we put boxes too in there, but these boxes, you'll see the boat that we put the boxes on. But they provide the transportation from the port to the area that we go to. But about, I suppose 15 years ago, the Centerfront became involved with us in helping us do this. Because we have a name in Panama now, Panama Missions does. And the man who is in charge of the Centerfront is a very good friend of ours. He's second in command with the president. And I can send him a message on my phone and he will get back with me. The other third in command is over the Darien province now. And he's another good friend. Both of them went to military school in the States. So they have just been a wonderful asset to us. So anything, that we need or whatever, we just text them. Of course, they know we're coming weeks ahead of time, months sometimes. And you see them loading up the boats. You probably recognize these folks right here. And these are the boats that we go in. They're all open, and we travel for 3.5 hours by boat. We go out into part of the Pacific Ocean for about 2.5 hours, and then we make a turn and go up the Sambu River to the Marca to the areas that we work in. Everybody always says, "Oh my gosh, you just how dangerous! You've got guns." No, but it just looks good.
We got some real cool guns.
We got some real cool guns. But no, we usually, like I said, the boats, the Centerfront takes us, so we usually have at least 20 to 25 law enforcement people with us. And the view, the scenery is gorgeous on the way to the Camargo. And this is one of the military boats full of some of our supplies and medication. And these are at different times of the year that we take, things down. But this
Do
is
the people know y'all are going to be arriving? The village people, they know when
They
y'all.
know, yeah, they know that we're coming, and they're very helpful. Yeah, they know we're coming. So usually we have 3 to 4 boats taking our people, and you see we have luggage in one of them, and then the Centerfront's carrying our supplies.
Well, now, some of these supplies, are they already there, or do y'all take all that?
Some of our
all those
medications
boxes
that we put on we'll send down on a boat, a freighter, ahead of time. But we have to carry most of the medicines, anything that's a prescription.
That's when we load the suitcases.
That's when you load the suitcases, that's right. And we have to carry that. So, until right now, one of the things you have to to deal with is when the rivers are low, they can't bring in a lot of the boats. So at this point, you see it's low, so we have to use the small boat. But usually the water is up to this staircase right there. So, and it takes a lot of work, you know, even just climbing up the stairs. I think Mark is over there.
And that was the old man that was trying to get up there.
So again, the center fund is there to help. And there they are unloading.
Who builds that dock and the stairs and all that?
The local people.
The
do.
local people build it all for them.
Them, the rock tribes, they all build that. And I didn't get into their history, you know, the Camarcas, and it's kind of like our reservations here in the United States, Camarca 1, Camarca 2. There's probably 35,000 Embarra Indians in these two different areas. And they have their own government, their own mayors, their own leaders, representatives, governor of the area. They're still under Panamanian government, but at the same time, they have their own in these areas. So what happens usually is we all arrive there, and the next morning we start loading up, packing up. We go by trucks, which is provided again by the center front, or we go by boats, or we go by motorcycles. And Mark put this in. I love to ride on the back of motorcycles.
They're gonna let you drive.
No. So this is the last time we were there, which was in 2020. And you're going to see a lot of our people that are here in some of these photos. And like I said, we set up in one area. That's the reason we're trying to build a clinic, so we can be established and leave our supplies there. And it's very difficult to move from one area to the other. But what we'll do is go into their community centers. Everything's open. Set up our tables. And we have so many people that are there to help us that are just local. The Embarra people in these communities are the most beautiful, humble people you'll ever meet. They're so appreciative. And, you know, they'll wait for hours. They'll be in lines out in the sun with their children and never complain. And never complain. You know, and I think in my situation, in my clinic, if I'm 15 minutes late, people are complaining. You know, and I'm thinking, you ought to go to the jungle, stand out in the hot sun, 30 minutes waiting on some Tylenol. You know, things are different. So the last group was there, and you see Celia there, and I think you'll see Jeff, and some other photos. We had a friend of Celia's was our dental technician. She was amazing. And I don't know how many people, but you see about 600 people.
Oh, yeah.
And she was amazing.
And she hit up all of the rail companies too.
Yeah.
She came with 900 toothbrushes.
She was ready.
We passed out.
And I love it when new people come because they're so excited, and it just makes for a better group. Here's other photos here. That's her seeing a patient. So you can see, you know, there's a lot going on in these areas. This particular village is called Da Peru, and you'll see a photo in a minute of us walking across the river because of the rains. We couldn't get the truck there. And here's other photos. This young man right over here is a physician in the Darien, and he always looks forward to us coming and will take off and work with us while we're there. More photos here. About 5 years ago, I started a OBGYN program in the area, and I do offer PAP exams in the area. And I'm looking for a OBGYN nurse. So if you know of anybody that could go with us. And that's been a real help to some of the women in the area who don't have access to that. And out of the women that we've seen, we have found 3 cervical cancers. And what happened, the way we handle this is, in that area, you know, it's not that you call your patient, tell them to come in, you like to talk with them. They have no addresses. So what we have to do is put it on the radio, which kind of goes into a wide range in this area, and say, so-and-so, would you show up at such and such place to go over your report? So not only does everybody know, but that's just the way it is in the air. That's how you communicate. And we raised the money, sent them to the city, and they did have surgery, and they're doing fine now.
All three?
So that was I felt like a good thing that happened there. This was just in April when I went back down for some meetings, and I had some medications with me, and I just kind of made some house calls and went to some of the villages.
Diane, when they have to go to the hospital to have these procedures, do the hospital pay for this for them? Because I'm sure they don't have insurance.
Does the hospital,
She just said they raised money to send them.
yeah, we raised
Yeah,
money
we
to
send
send
money
them
to
for the
them.
surgical. I don't know what I did, Mark. Okay, here we go. We raised money to send them for the surgical procedure. Now, anyone who goes into the hospital there who needs help, there is the public hospital, which is one of those you don't recommend, but I mean, that's all you have. And then there are private hospitals. So they go into the public hospitals. They do have to pay, but it's only if you have the money to pay for it. And most people in Panama, and Panama is really a very stable country. The middle class is rising up. People that work do have insurance. The people that don't have access to insurance, like people like this that live in these areas, they do receive, is something like, I guess in our country, Medicaid. So if they do need help, they can go into the city, but it's so difficult to go through the process if there's something really wrong. One of the Embarra's wives, who was good friends of ours, she developed abdominal cancer, and she went to the hospital. They took her all over, and she stayed 2.5 months in the hospital until they diagnosed her. Here in the States, it would have been done in 2 days or less. She was there for 2.5 months, and she lived for a month after that. So they sent her home with what we would call Nexium, which is for reflux. She had cancer. But anyway, so that's one of the difficulties, and not only of being in an area like this, but being indigenous. And I'm not going to go into that because we all understand those situations. This next slide is going to be a video. And this is up in Embarra, Peru, where most of you have been. And they always greet us with music. Wonderful people, great people. And I didn't bring up at the same time, and I'll show you photos, like, you know, there are Christians here. There are Christians in these villages, and there are churches in these villages. One thing about the Embarra people is, like you see in many indigenous tribes, believe in different gods, you know, the sun, the rain, the river, the alligator, whatever. The Embarra people have always believed in one God. They came from Colombia. They crossed over into Panama when it was still under Colombia. They have always believed in one God. They're very Christian-like people, and they're so easy to talk to. And then in this village we're getting ready to see now, there's a lovely church, you know, with a thatched roof that they recently built with a kitchen. And they're just loving people. They're wonderful.
Diane, I just wanted to mention too about the little man that came walk through the jungle for 4 hours.
Oh, yeah.
Barefooted to get to where we were. Someone had asked, you know, how do they know we're coming? They know.
They know.
They know.
I don't know how they know. People, a lot of people, they don't have cell phone connection there. People have phones, but you have to come back to the ports in order to get connection. But I don't know if they blow a horn or, you know, send out runners. I don't know. Everyone knows you're coming, that's for sure. So the next one is going to be another village we go to, Embarra, Peru. There's a lovely church there. and we spend a lot of time up there with them. They have some of the most beautiful artwork. This is from their village, but they do beautiful carvings and basket weaving. And I don't know if anyone saw a presentation by National Geographic about a year or two ago. It was called The Story of Us, and it was on different cultures all over the world. This village was in it. Nelson Chami, who's one of the Embera young men there who speaks English, he was raised by missionaries. He was in the National Geographic program as one of the translators. He had never seen it before, so when we were there, we showed it to him on the cell phone, and he was all excited to be able to see that. But Morgan Freeman from Mississippi, actor, he was the one that told the stories all over the world of these different cultures. Our boats are arriving, and you can hear the music as you're coming down the river. Most of these guys here are members of the church. You'll see Brenda coming up. Anthony?
That's it.
Was that it? Okay, Celia was in the background. And by the way, we take baths in those rivers when we're there for any length of time. I spent a week there a year ago, and you'd have to, the Embera people are so clean. They take 5 or 6 baths a day in the river. And so we go down and the rivers are clear, and you get in there and you go early in the morning and wash your hair, and then in the evening you go back and take another one. At least the gringos do. But it's life beyond expectation. You kind of go with the flow, and it's a wonderful, wonderful life. So these are the boats that we come in, and I meant to mention about Hollywood, but years ago they filmed a movie called The End of the Spear. Many of you have read the book, you've seen the movie, it was filmed here. They use the Embera people because they're so like the people that were in, not Peru, you know what I'm talking about. What country was that?
Brazil.
Not Brazil, no, it's on the border. I'll think of it in a minute. But anyway, there was a tribe of people down there, and in the 50s, missionaries were in that area. They were all pilots. There was 5 missionaries in that area, and they wanted to take the word of God down to these people that were in the jungle area, and they'd never seen people before outside of the jungle. And the planes would fly over. They were little, just 2-seater 150s, and they would drop supplies down, and the people would look up at them and point. They didn't know what it was. This was in the 50s. The Indians thought, who are these people? They're huge birds. And so after several months, the planes would come around. So finally they decided one of them landed, and the man who wrote the book was the one who landed his little 150, and he landed it in the movie on this beach right here. That's not where it all happened, but that's where Hollywood filmed it. And then the people would come out of the forest, with their spears and look at them, and they would stand there holding their spears, and the missionaries would stand there and try to offer things to them. They never got close. They'd get back in their plane and take off. So as time went, they didn't make friends with some of the Indians in that particular area, and then near the end, one of the planes landed, and they got out, and for some reason they came and attacked them and killed all 5 missionaries. You can look this up. At the End of the Spear, and they were attacked. And so, but today, one of the things that happened, one of the missionary sisters who spoke their language, she stayed on, and anyway, she found her way somehow into the villages. She spent her entire life there and died at age 91 back in the 80s. And she taught Bible classes. These people became, groups of them became Christians. And today, they have brought them to the state, several of them. This was years ago, and they talk with different religious groups and organizations and universities how, if they could go back in time, but they didn't know. They said we were ignorant. We didn't know who these people were. We thought they were there to hurt us, so they killed them. And that's something they become close friends with the grandchildren and the children of these missionaries that were murdered.
But
But anyway,
when these people like fighting like the Hatfields and the boys, I mean, they were just killing each other off.
yeah, some of them, yeah, they were. But at this particular group, they, when the planes came around and circled, they didn't know what it was and why they were. Woo! I gotta hurry. Okay. So anyway, let's move on. This is in Peru, and I have to have my coffee in the morning, and then the local church members come and have coffee with us. Best coffee in the world, Carl. Boiled on an open fire. That's the church right there. That's Dr. Francisco working late at night, doing some minor surgery, and that's us working. Okay, let me get down to him real quick. This is the church building in the area that we work in now, in the Sambu area. You see Anthony and the MacGyver team. Quickly, the MacGyver team is a group of men, they can be women too, that, if it can be done, the MacGyver team can do it. So they do a lot of construction, digging holes, wells, whatever. Great team to have with us. We need more MacGyver people. There's just more pictures of the MacGyver team. Exhausted after a day's work. Come on. This is the building that has been offered to us to reconstruct for a clinic, and it needs a lot of work. It needs a lot of work, and we're trying to raise funds now for that. This is when I was talking about us crossing rivers and walking. I got tickled. I look like I'm just out for an afternoon walk, and Mark's trying his best to get through the water.
And then he turned around and came back and got me.
And then these are just photos of us in April seeing patients. Come on. Quickly, this little lady, she was at church. We held a medical in the afternoon in church in the Sambu area, and she had a child that was very sick with diarrhea and vomiting, and I gave her medications, and then I told her, I said, go down to the little store and pick up some Gatorade and mix it with water and give it to the child all night long to drink it. Next morning I saw her as we were getting on a boat to go to another village, and she was picking up wood, and I went up to her, and they just smile. They're so happy to see you. I asked her about the child. Did she get the Gatorade? Things that strike you is she had no money. I'm thinking run down the store and pick up Gatorade. She had no money, and so make a long story short, I gave her some to her to go get the Gatorade, and she did. But beautiful people, never complain. Real quick, like this guy, I don't know if any of you keep up with war correspondence or with foreign correspondence. This is Michael Yon, Y-O-N. You can look him up, very famous war correspondent. He was a Green Beret. And he called me before I went down there in April and sent a message first, said, may I call you and introduce myself? I said, sure. He called me and he said, I'm a foreign correspondent. I'm wanting to go to the Darien. And he said, may I go with you? And I said, well, okay. I wanted to find out who this man was. And so anyway, he said, I said, well, how did you get my name? He said, I was in Washington, D.C. 2 weeks ago. I was interviewing Juliana at the White House, and after our meeting, I was talking with a lot of the White House correspondents, and I said, I'm going to Panama next week. I want to go to the Darien province. I've got to find some connections to get down there. And a lady friend of his stood up and said, call Diane Edrington. And I said, whoa, back up. What? You were in Washington, D.C.? And they said, call Diane Edrington? He said, yeah, and they said, and get in touch with the head of immigration. They have her phone number, and we'll tell you where she is. I'm still, I don't know. I got to search this. But anyway, he called, and I said, yes, you can go. So, great guy, did a lot of photography. He's still there. He's been there for a month, since April, May. He's been there 2 months. He's deep in the Darien. He's in the Darien Gap where the migrants come across. And he's a good guy from Florida. We don't have to do it on. This is Dr. Francisco. He's also a missionary in Honduras. And for all of you who aren't familiar with him, the church, our church, through our elders, are supporting him now, partly to help with people in this area during the COVID areas. So many, they're poor anyway, and then they lost their jobs, they didn't have food. So some of your donations in helping the church, they have gone down to Francisco, and he has been helping others. And what he's doing here is introducing some of the leaders of the church, you know, the song leader, this is the church here, and they're saying, hello, Long Beach, Mississippi. Thank you so much for the food that you sent us, the money you sent to help support us. Please come visit us. When he started 2 years and 20, and yes, a year and a half ago when he started in Honduras at this particular area, there were 7 people in the church. There are now 160. And he just said, the day I took this for you, you know, a lot of people weren't there, showed up. But they have almost 100 children there at the church now. Well, 65, and then they have about 100 adults. So the church is growing. That's the family right there. One day I hope to bring them up here so they can meet everyone. Baptisms almost every Sunday. He's a hard worker. He's out in the area teaching people all week. And these are some of the people that y'all have helped with food, and you can tell, you know, looking at the photos, they're very poor people, and they were so grateful for the food. In his off hours, this is what he does at night. He takes care of the local people in that area, and mostly his church members come to him late at night. You know, they fall and they cut themselves, they've done this or that. Real quick, like next week, we'll be going back to Panama. Belinda, where's Belinda? Belinda and I will be going back to Panama next week. We've been granted privileges from the Minister of Security and also the President to go into the refugee camps. I don't know what your political values are, but we do this from a humanitarian standpoint. You can't make judgments. In this area, these people are coming in from all over the world. It's a real difficult situation that we're facing down there. I'll do another class at USM in September or October on controlled flow, which is immigrants crossing from the Colombian border through the Darien Gap, coming all the way up to Mexico and to the United States border. So it is a big problem. These countries cannot afford these people, and what Panama does is when they come across the gap, these were just 2 local Panamanians. They're the only ones allowed into camps, no outsiders except Panama Mission. And this was last year. Some of these things are kind of hard to look at, but when you cross the Darien Gap, which is one of the most dangerous jungles in the world, you cross, these people fly into Ecuador, because Ecuador doesn't require visas. They cross through Colombia, through the rivers, and then they reach the borders of Panama. They have to cross the Darien Gap, which is one of the most dangerous jungles in the world. Not only, you know, from animals, snakes, whatever, but also from gangs. They're gangs, and they know these people are coming through, and they rob them, they beat them, they rape the women. So by the time they get to some of these camps, the Senate has found them and brought them into some of these camps. You know, it's just devastating what they go through. And that's what your feet look like when you walk through the jungle without shoes.
Right.
And
They steal the shoes.
hunt, they steal the shoes, they take everything. And you know, sometimes a photo can say 1,000 words, and it was just like so much we take for granted is nothing but a dream for them. And you talk to them and they just say, if I can get to America, if I can get to America, you know, and I thought, what are you willing to